iOS 27 public beta is here, and I'm going to tell you the top 5 features for every Apple device. From wild messages improvements on iPhone to custom wallet passes on Apple Watch. Visual intelligence has come to iPad, Siri AI is super powerful on the Mac, Apple Home updates, new shortcut actions, and yes, Apple Vision Pro got some new tricks too. Let's start with iPhone, and the first thing you should try are the new photo extend and change perspective features. Here's a picture of me and Bridget Carey from CNET that we took at WWDC, and in iOS 27 you'll see the tools option down here in the bottom right when you're editing a photo, and you can go to the extend pane. You can actually reframe, even pinch out if you want to extend even more. And when you tap extend, it's going to add content around the subjects. So maybe you want to add a little bit of headroom or have a space for text, maybe for something like a poster image. After a few moments, it will extend, even gave us a little more arms there, and you can reframe the photo just like that. And in addition to an extend, you should also try the perspective change. Here's a photo of Canupsi I took at DubDub. We'll go back into the editor and then tools, and when I tap reframe, now we can reposition him in the frame. I'm actually going to drag it this far over, and as you can see, his body was actually blocking the plant behind him, but when I tap reframe after changing the position, it's actually going to fill in that plant behind him. Pretty wild. Now those photo tools are available across your Apple devices, as well as this next feature, which is Notify Me in Safari. Maybe you're trying to track the price of a product, or you just want to know when a change is happening on a web page. Well, tap down here in the Safari address bar, and you'll now see the Notify Me option. You can ask it to let you know when a price changes on a product, and when you tap Edit here, you now have the option for hourly. That's new in some of the latest betas, and that makes it way more useful if you're trying to check stock on an item, prices, and then you'll be notified on your device here. If you ever want to edit that notification, you can do that. And even if you force quit Safari, that notification will still come through on your iPhone. Next, there's some great improvements to messages. Now when you get a text message, your iPhone is going to intelligently pull events, tasks, and even photo recommendations from that message. So you can see here, I have a text saying, let's meet for lunch at this place at this time. And now there's a new add to calendar option underneath the message. You can tap that. It's going to gather details, and it will even try to predict the location if that was in the text message as well. Now I can quickly add that to my calendar. That's also true if you get a text message that has things like items. Since this is a request, get milk and eggs on your way home, I can add this to Apple Notes, or I can add these things to reminders, and then it will put that message in the reminder title and get ready to alert me. And it can even do wild things like recommend searching photos if someone asked. So if someone asks for a photo of you wearing glasses, I can tap search for photos right here above the keyboard. I can quickly look for that photo and then send it to someone. You can now also send drawings to someone right here in messages. Just scroll down, you'll see drawing. You can draw something. I don't know why you would draw words, but you can do that and send it out. And you might also notice that the send voice message microphone is gone from my compose window. You can now toggle that on or off in settings. So if I go to the settings app, just search for messages down here, scroll down until you see show in text field. When you go there, now you can decide if you want nothing next to the compose window, start dictation, or that record audio. I typically never send voice messages, so I can change that to start dictation. And now that microphone will act like the microphone down here by the keyboard. It will now dictate what I'm saying rather than send a voice recording. Now, as you can see, there's also a Write with Siri option, and we'll get more into Siri AI when we get to the Mac. Now, when it comes to Apple Podcasts, video shows have brought back chapters and follow-along transcripts. So if you watch Primary Technology in Apple Podcasts, which we do video and audio, you'll see that you can go to the chapter view and all of the chapters are once again available. Not only that, but you can go to the transcript view and you'll have the follow-along transcript for those video shows as well. And if you scrub along the timeline, you'll see the little chapter separators there with a little haptic feedback as you go across the lines. So glad all of that is back in Apple Podcasts. And before we get to Apple Watch, number 5, you can actually set a different volume for alarms than you have as your ringtone. So we go back to the main settings screen, go down to sounds and haptics, and then if you go down to alarms and timers, you'll see you can either match your ringtone and alarm sound, or I can toggle this off, and if I need my alarms and timers to be at max volume, I can do that, but not change my actual ringtone volume. So if you want that separate slider for alarms and timers, you can do that by just toggling match ringtone off. Now, one of the coolest new features on Apple Watch actually starts on iPhone, and that's custom wallet passes. If I go to my Apple Wallet, which I keep here in Control Center, now when you tap the plus icon here at the top, you'll see the option to create a pass. Now you can enter pass details manually, or you can use Apple Intelligence and take a photo or choose a screenshot. Now I took a screenshot of my gym pass, and when I select it, it's going to use Apple Intelligence to create a pass for me. Now I have an Apple Wallet pass where before I had to go to that Planet Fitness app. And when I add it to my Apple Wallet here, it's also going to be available on my Apple Watch. You can also enter pass details manually. This can be for an event like a ticket, a standard pass, or a membership, and you can even customize the colors, what's shown on the pass, and more. But another great feature here is the new home screen. When you press the digital crown, you'll actually see suggested apps here on the front screen, and then when you scroll down, you have your full list of apps. Those apps will change dynamically throughout the day and try to predict what you want to use, and I've found this pretty good. It kind of knows my most used apps. You can also tap this icon to go back to the list, and swipe down to go back to those suggestions. There's also a new unified Find My app. So you see the icon here, but if I go into the All apps, you'll know before it used to be Find Items, Find People, and they were all separated. Well, now they're all just in the Find My app. You can scroll through the different people, and you can tap the icon in the top left, and instead switch to Devices. You can see all the locations of your devices here, and go over to AirTags and Items, and you can see it all there. You can also swipe up and see the full list, even sort it alphabetically or by distance to you. Really like the new unified Find My app. Number 3, I was having battery issues with my Apple Watch Ultra 2. It is a couple years old, but it was dying way faster than it ought, and I found that on watchOS 27, battery life is much improved. That's not typically what you get from a beta, but that's what I've been experiencing on beta 3. Now, a couple other watch improvements I do need to show you from the phone. If those sleep score notifications in the morning are a little much for you, now in the Apple Watch app, if you go down to Apps and then go down to Sleep, you can customize when or if you ever get those. You can go to sleep score notification, and you can choose only get notifications when you have a high score, only when you have a low or very low score, or you can completely turn them off entirely. Appreciate that granular control. And finally, when you do workouts with Apple Watch, especially one that would generate a map, you can now export the image of your map and workout and then share it on social media. You can go to one of your past workouts, like I have an outdoor cycle here. Then once you're viewing the workout, you can tap the share button, view more, and then save this image. It'll now be in your photos with a nice workout icon so you know what it was, distance, active calories, and even a little map showing you your route. Now next up, top 5 features for iPad. But before we get there, I need to protect my screen, and that's where today's sponsor comes in, Paperlike. And to show you how easy this is, I'm going to apply the Paperlike screen protector while I tell you all about it. To show you I'm not cheating, I got this angle so you can see me talking while I put it on. This is the Paperlike 3, the newest version, and not only do you get these wipes to help clean your screen, but this helper tool that makes applying it super easy. You actually get 2 in the package, but I'm only going to need 1, and that's because the Butterfly application system makes it super easy. Now, Paperlike 3 gives you a premium paper feel, ideal friction with consistent tactile resistance and sensory feedback. And the true paper feel comes from the nanodot surface technology. This way it delivers the exact friction your hand naturally expects. Now I'm going to use a little helper tool, align the top right corner and the bottom left, and then I pull this first tab, and that's just going to help me align it. At this stage, you can lift up and realign the protector as needed, because this first layer is just going to remove the dust. Once you have it lined up, use the helper tool so you're ready for the next step. I'm going to take the little hook on my helper tool, and this is going to get all the dust off the screen. This is basically creating a clean room effect. This way, when the screen protector goes on, there's nothing underneath. Also, when you scan the QR code in the box, there's actually a video with an on-screen guide to walk you through every step of the process. Last couple steps, I'll take the helper tool, hold the right side down. That applied one half. Now I'll hold the left side down. That applied the right side. Then you take the helper tool and you play a little game of Pac-Man, pushing any big bubbles from the center to the outside, gathering the little bubbles as you go. Now that all the bubbles are gone, the grand reveal. Pull the 3L, boom. Flawless application all right here on camera. Look at that, perfectly aligned, no bubbles. And now whether I'm editing a podcast on my iPad, if you want to draw, you get a great tactile feel with the Paperlike 3. I mean, if Paperlike CEO Jan can do it in the middle of CES on a busy showroom floor, and I can do it first try live on camera, you can do it too. Scan this QR code right here or check out the link down in the description and get Paperlike 3 for your iPad. It is the easiest screen protector I've ever applied. So scan this QR code here to get yours or check the link down in the description. And my thanks to Paperlike for sponsoring this video. Now, some of the best features on iPadOS 27. First is the easier copy and paste. So let's say you have something on your clipboard. I'll just copy a link to one of my videos here. Then next time you go to any open text field, something like a text message here, when you get ready to type, whatever was recently on your clipboard, you can just one tap and paste it where you're about to type. That's something that I've seen on Android phones for a long time. Really glad it's here on the iPad, and you should see it also on your iPhone. Next, you'll notice way faster file transfers from external drives to your iPad Files app. The Files app on iPad has been completely rebuilt to match the Finder on macOS, so you'll notice faster performance when you're navigating folders, which is something I have noticed. Before, a lot of times it would take a few seconds for files and folders to pop up, but you'll see it is much faster, and those transfers from external drives, even if you used Thunderbolt before, it will be much faster now. And number 3, visual intelligence has come to iPad. So now if you see a bunch of dates on screen, you can take a screenshot, give it a moment, and Visual Intelligence will actually have an add to calendar down here at the bottom if it sees events on screen. And it won't just pull one date anymore. This is new in iOS 27. You can add all the events that's seen in the screenshot to your calendar with one tap. You'll also see more options down here at the bottom, like add to contacts if you see contact info, read aloud, and even summarize the web page. But using Apple Pencil, you can also do things like a reverse image search. So I can just circle something that I see on screen, and then it will quickly do a reverse Google image search. Third-party apps can plug into this as well. And hopefully soon you might even see Amazon results from those visual intelligence searches. And it'll work for general knowledge type things. So if I take a screenshot and I want to know where this photo was taken, I could just tap the reverse image search here or circle with the Apple Pencil. But this was telling me it's taken at the Rhine River, and that's what it is. Also, you should notice window resizing and speeds is much faster, whether you're just rearranging from Stage Manager or you're wanting to open new apps and resizing. All of that has become fluid. And that was a big part of iOS 27 across all the platforms, general speed and reliability improvements, and I'm now running the beta on all of my devices, except for my Mac Studio. I just have it on my MacBook Air. And I've seen much better performance and reliability improvements across the board. And finally, there's a new shortcuts automation for attaching and detaching keyboards, so you can have certain apps and even apps go into certain layouts when you attach it to a Magic Keyboard or remove it. And if you want to see all the iPad-specific features in iPadOS 27, you can scan this QR code or check the YouTube link above, and I did an entire video just on iPad updates. Now, across all the platforms, the thing you really need to try is Siri AI. Once you update and do all the indexing, it is truly impressive what it's capable of, especially accessing your personal context, but we'll talk more about that in the Mac, which is next. Now, when it comes to macOS 27 Golden Gate, there's some great new wallpapers, so you'll see that here. But number one, that visual intelligence that's on iPad is now on the Mac as well, and there's a new keyboard shortcut, Shift-Command-6, and then your cursor will turn into this crosshairs, which is like you're taking a screenshot, but it's actually visual intelligence. Let's say again, I'm on a website with a lot of dates and I want to be able to quickly add them to my calendar. I can use a new keyboard shortcut in macOS 27, which is Shift, Command, and the number 6. Rather than taking a screenshot, your cursor will turn into these crosshairs. And then when you select an area of the screen, that's actually going to be visual intelligence. And not only can you ask Siri something about what you selected, you can do that reverse image search, or you can add those events to your calendar. This will also work with things like our reminders. I can choose what calendar I want to add these to, and I can choose to add all the events that I screenshotted with visual intelligence. This could also be for information you want to add as a contact. So I'll do Shift-Command-6 as well. I'll select this little area of text, which also has a phone number in it. Now I can ask Siri something about what I selected, do an image search, or add to contacts and call the number that I selected automatically. If I add to contacts, it will actually title the contact with context of what I screenshotted, and I can add right here. Visual intelligence, super powerful on macOS. But what's even more fun is describe an extension. You can create your own custom extensions now in Safari by clicking the highlights area up here, click Describe Extension, and then you can just prompt it with whatever you want. I did an entire video with 10 plus ideas for extensions. I'll link that above and you can scan this QR code. But as an example, I wanted an extension to quickly download all the images of a web page. And I saved some of my custom extensions up here in the toolbar. And if I click the image downloader, it's going to find all the high quality images. You probably just saw them go to the downloads that quickly. I'll click the magnifying glass. And now I have them all as JPEGs in my downloads folder instantly. Way faster than downloading the zip file from an Apple Newsroom article, unpacking it, disregarding the things I don't want. Loved having that. I even created an extension that will let me capture a frame of whatever video is playing on screen, even something like a YouTube video. So I just ran my extension there, and if I look at what was captured, it pulled an image from the video, perfect for Apple event live streams where I want to capture those bento box features. And all your custom extensions actually sync between your Apple devices. So you can see my extensions, all the ones that I've created here, and those are available on my iPhone and my iPad. Next, Apple finally added a way to manage lots of icons in your menu bar, especially if you're using a MacBook. Now when those icons go past the notch, these little two arrows appear, and then you can expand the icon so they're visible on the left side of the notch, or shrink it back to make everything more manageable. Unfortunately, there's no manual controls for making those arrows appear whenever you want, but I'm glad the feature's there. Now, big number 4 on this list, and this is across all of Apple's platforms, is Siri AI. Not only can you ask it things about visual intelligence, Command Space has actually Spotlight and Siri AI now. You can ask it general knowledge questions. I've actually been asking it about APIs when I'm building shortcuts, and it's pretty good at that. Here it's telling me about JSON results I can get from the movie database. And the best part about Siri AI on the Mac is it's available even in contextual menus. So maybe I downloaded a PDF, like let's say the court filing of Apple suing OpenAI. Well, I can ask Siri anything about this PDF document and even about multiple documents. So I can ask it something simple like, give me a gist of the case against OpenAI. And because I selected the PDF, it's going to refer to that as the source. And now I have a breakdown of the lawsuit against OpenAI. I can even ask Siri AI about multiple files, so I'll select all the images here in my Finder. I'll ask Siri, do any of these look like the Final Cut UI? And it can look at the content of the images, and it will tell me, yes, 2 of the images appear to show the Final Cut Pro user interface, and it'll even tell me about them. Siri AI has a ton of use cases, especially personal context. And while you can ask these questions on your iPhone, your iPad, or any of your Apple devices, I'll show you one more example here on the Mac. I'm going to ask it, what time should I leave home to pick up my son from the airport? I'm not telling Siri what day the flight is or any other context, just kind of bare minimum vague question. And when you update to the public beta, you'll see that your devices are going to index for days, maybe even a week. And it's because it's getting all of that personal context privately and securely per device. This way it can answer questions like this with full knowledge of your text, your emails, and more. And just like that, it sees the flight information from my email, it knows my home location, it knows the time of the flight, and it told me I should leave at about 5:15 p.m. I'll ask another vague question like, when does my daughter get back from camp? Again, no personal name, I'm not saying what the camp name is. But just like that, it tells me the answer, and now I don't have to dive into an app, search my events, Siri AI just knows. I did a whole video about Siri AI showing all the possibilities. You can watch it by scanning this QR code, and I'll link that in the YouTube thing above as well. And lastly here on the Mac is the overall design. Menus are much cleaner, a lot of these superfluous icons are gone. You do have the liquid glass slider, so if you go into System Settings, and then you go to Appearance, you can choose how transparent or opaque you want liquid glass to be. And a nice bonus feature, if you go down to the menu bar option in System Settings, you can choose to turn off Show Suggestions in Control Gallery. This way, when you're wanting to add controls or edit things here, you won't have that suggested area at the top. It'll really clean up this whole UI looking at actions to add. Now let's talk about Apple Home. There's one notable feature on Apple TV specifically, and that's the Podcast app. You can now watch shows that support video right here in Apple Podcasts on your Apple TV. So we'll go to Primary Technology. That's my weekly tech podcast. Yes, we do video everywhere, and you'll also get chapters and transcripts in iOS 27. You can scan the QR code or the links down in the description so you can listen and watch Primary Technology. But I'll go to our latest episode, which we also have custom episode artwork every episode, which makes this screen look really nice. But when I press play, you'll be able to watch the show right here, even pick up where you left off if you were watching on another device. And you'll even see a from this episode, so if things are mentioned like other podcasts, Apple TV shows, or you want to see the show notes for this episode, you can even go to Info and actually scroll the show notes of this episode. You can't click on any links because there's no web browser on Apple TV, but pretty cool. You can read all the show notes right here. Now, the other big updates come in the actual Apple Home app and specifically for HomeKit Secure Video. Now, one thing you should start seeing in your Apple Home are unified notifications. So you shouldn't get 1,000 notifications if someone's just opened the door a few times and is leaving home. You should start seeing things like Stephen is arriving or Stephen is leaving with a summary of what's happening and not a dozen notifications for one event. I've been seeing that happen a little bit here and there. I think those streamlined notifications are still rolling out. But when it comes to HomeKit Secure Video, like my doorbell camera here, there are lots of improvements here. For one, I'll just go to my front door camera, and if I go back to different recordings, you'll now see I can filter it using the filter button down here in the bottom left. I can filter by noteworthy, people, packages, and when it comes to packages, I can see my delivery guy right there. Someone in a package were detected. I can see all people, all vehicles, and you can even search for things. So I can use the magnifying glass. Maybe I want to search specifically for a FedEx package. Well, I can search for that, and if it saw the truck or the person's uniform, I can jump directly to that. And there you see the truck in the background. So being able to filter by packages, notable events, and even search for specific words and things on screen, really great. And you should get up to 4K video on cameras that support it. Now, if I save a video clip, this is the Aqara Video Doorbell, the newest one, which is actually 2K. And if I look at that video file, their resolution increase is not there yet, so it might be dependent on the brands and Apple working together, but get subscribed. Now I'm gonna get to my top 5 new features and shortcuts, but before we do, there's some cool stuff happening in Vision Pro too. So first thing here in Apple Vision Pro, there's a new environment. There's Merc, looks great at night. You even get to see the Aurora Borealis. And if we go into light mode, that looks really cool too. Love the new environment. Number 2, screen recording should actually be improved. So as you're watching the screen recording right now, it should look better than previous screen recordings. Number 3, not only is there a new Apple environment, but you can add your own personal environments using panoramic photos. So I actually took a panoramic at Apple Park when I was there for WWDC. And this was before the keynote. I didn't even know this feature was coming out. But this panorama actually turned out super well as an environment in Apple Vision Pro. You can even see the picnic tables down there. There's so much depth to the entire image. See the rainbow stage. So glad I took this panorama, and I want to take even more. This way I can create my own environments for Apple Vision Pro. Also, Vision Pro, even if you have the older M2 version like I do, much faster to connect to things like Wi-Fi and get ready to actually use. And yes, you get Siri AI even here on the Apple Vision Pro, access to all your conversations. And if you hold down the crown to activate it, you can ask it all the world knowledge questions, continue your past conversations right here on Apple Vision Pro. All right, and finally, my top 5 favorite things about the new shortcuts in iOS 27. First, of course, is the describe a shortcut. When you go to create a new one, you can just tell it what you want, and I've actually had some pretty good luck with a few of these. For example, someone in my community wanted a shortcut where it would set timers, but actually have a rest period in between, like for working out. Well, I did the describe a shortcut for this to set these timers with breaks in the middle, and it actually worked great. I can even do more complex ones with things like movie database APIs and others. Get subscribed, we're going to be doing a lot more iOS 27 shortcuts very soon. But probably my favorite new thing in iOS 27 shortcuts is the new storage actions. You can now store data directly in a shortcut, either in an individual shortcut, or you can make it global variables. This way I can make shortcuts like this, which is my storage inventory shortcut. Maybe you're trying to keep track of office supplies, what's in your deep freezer. Well, you can add items. I'll add an item like chicken. We'll say we have 5 of those in the freezer. Let's add another item. We'll say beef, and we got 4 of those. Well, now it's storing this directly in the shortcut. And if I run it and choose the view inventory option, it's going to show me everything I've entered. And then I can always add new items like I've been doing, or update my inventory. Maybe we used 2 chickens, so I'll do -2 here. And it should update it to 3. And all of that is happening right here directly in the storage of this shortcut. This can actually save lists of images, dictionaries, and more. I'll put a link to my storage inventory shortcut. Remember, you need iOS 27, at least the beta, in order to use it. And it also allowed me to make a Clipboard Manager for iOS devices using the built-in storage rather than a third-party app or trying to hack a reminders list. I'll put a link to my Clipboard Manager for iOS 27 down in the description below as well. Also, there's new automation triggers, which is awesome. Now, to create an automation, it's now just an action here in any shortcut. And not only do you have the normal automation triggers like time of day, wireless connectivity, there's the keyboard is connected and disconnected. That's new. I talked about that in my iPad video. You can also have a new automation for when a screenshot is saved, and the shortcut will run whenever you take a screenshot, and when a notification is received. So you can choose when I receive a notification from Instacart or Amazon. And you can even add a filter for the title or message of the notification contains a certain word. Then you can take further actions like flashing your smart home lights. And because automations now live in a shortcut like normal, that means you can share automations, so you can hit the share button and get an iCloud link to share this even with the automation trigger attached. We've not been able to share automations before. That's going to make for a lot of cool videos coming this fall once iOS 27 is out for everyone. And there's a ton of new actions for things like reminders, messages, and some simple improvements like if you want to send a message before, if you wanted to send it to a group, you had to put all the contacts in individually. Well, now shortcuts can actually see your current conversations, even ones that you've customized with a title, and you can include those groups along with other contacts in your shortcuts that send messages automatically, so it doesn't create a new group every time. That's a huge win. And thankfully, they heard my request to change the view for shortcuts. So if we go down to Apps and go over to Shortcuts, you can now choose to go directly to the editor view in the shortcuts in iOS 27. There's also a manual restore for shortcuts that have not synced via iCloud yet. I've not pressed that yet, not sure if I want to know what that does. But that's a welcome change because now I like to jump into a shortcut and see the actions immediately, and I can do that rather than see describe a shortcut at first. And this fall is going to be huge for shortcuts with these new actions, and I have a bunch of videos planned for when iOS 27 is available for everyone. So get subscribed, and if you want to learn how to build shortcuts from scratch and learn all about these new actions and automations, I'm going to be adding modules to my Shortcuts University course. Shortcuts University is currently 13 lessons and over 12 hours of video where I walk you through how to build shortcuts from scratch, from beginner to advanced using Apple Intelligence, which there's new actions there as well, and I'm going to be adding modules specifically for iOS 27. So for the next week after the public beta launches, I'm going to have a $50 off deal. You can scan this QR code right here, join Shortcuts University. You also get PDF downloads for every lesson, and those updated modules will be included. So you'll be able to watch and get those this fall when they're released once iOS 27 comes out for everyone. And I'd love if you just join my Shortcuts community in general. Over 5,000 people have joined. And if you become a member, you get access to my weekly live streams, Shortcut of the Week, and a ton more. You can go to shortcut.bot or scan this QR code to join the community. Appreciate all of your support there. Let me know if you have any questions about iOS 27, and I have a bunch of videos that I put in a playlist about all the features, platform specific. I have a whole video on iPad, a whole video on Mac. You can watch that playlist right over here. And if you want to see that Siri AI video in action, lots of use cases, you can watch that right here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.